Hi Year 8, I wanted to do this little PowerPoint presentation with my voice over it really to help communicate about the anatomy of the heart and the blood vessels. Okay, so I've sent you this picture and I've asked you to label it. I've given you a link to the BBC website to help you do that, but I thought I'd talk through it as well. So by the end of this lesson, we're going to be able to label a picture like this, like the structure of the heart, and also describe how the blood flows around the heart and to the lungs and to the body. All right, so have a little look and check that you have labelled your heart correctly. Okay. At the top here, this side is known as the right side of the heart. Now you will see it is on the left hand side of our picture. When you look at the picture of the heart, it's as if you've taken that picture and pressed it against, you turned it around and pressed it against your body. So if that was part of your body, that would be on your right hand side, even though in the picture we're looking at it's on the left. In you, it's on the right. So that is the right hand side of the heart. That is the right atria. That is the right ventricle. The left hand side of the heart here, on our picture, obviously it's on the right. But if you turn that picture around and put it on your body, that would be on your left. Okay. So you can see it's got a much thicker wall here. That's how you can always tell. Look how much thicker it is here than on the right ventricle. So our left ventricle is very thick, and here we've got our left atria. Hopefully you also managed to label these blood vessels at the top. This top one coming into the right atria is the vena cava. Vena cava. Now this is a massive vein. I always think of it as the vein cave. It's a huge vein that drains all the blood from the body into the right atria. The blood then will flow down into the right ventricle and up out of this blood vessel here. This goes to the lungs. Pulmonary is the word we use for lungs. So it's an artery leaving the heart going to the lungs. So this one here is the pulmonary artery. On the other side of the heart, there's no join between the two sides. They don't touch, they don't mix. We have blood coming into the left atria. This comes from the lungs, so it's a pulmonary vein. This pulmonary vein goes into the left atria, the blood flows down into the left ventricle, and then back up out of a huge, thick-walled artery called the aorta. We're going to look at that in more detail now. So to start with, our heart, you can just break it down into 4 boxes, because sometimes a picture like we've been looking at is a bit complicated. So if you look at it like 4 boxes, sometimes it makes a bit more sense. The right atria, the right ventricle, the left atria, and the left ventricle. Remember, these two do not ever touch at all, but there is a connection between the atria and ventricle on both sides. So we're going to look at blood coming back from the body. It's given off its oxygen to the body cells, so it's called deoxygenated blood. Can you remember where blood comes in to the body from? What the blood vessel is? It comes in on this right hand side here, in this blood vessel here. Check your diagram, check you've got it right. What's it called? The vena cava. I always think of it as vein cave. It's the biggest vein. The vena cava going into that right atria, that small little chamber at the top of the right side, that small box. Okay, so here it is coming in our box version. We colour it in blue often because blood is never blue, but deoxygenated blood is less red than blood with lots of oxygen in. So we traditionally colour it in blue. So here it comes. It comes into the right atria by the vena cava, and there it is sitting in the right atria. Now it doesn't sit there for very long. There's a little contraction of the atria and blood is pushed into the right ventricle. it sits in the right ventricle for a minute, and there's a little, not a minute, for a tiny part of a second, and then it is, the heart contracts and it pushes that blood out of the heart, of the right ventricle, out of the pulmonary artery, the artery that goes to the lungs. The only artery in the body that has deoxygenated blood in, it carries it from the heart to the lungs. Now it gets to the lungs, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Right, so there's a quick set of questions here for you to go through. So look at your diagram that you've labelled. Number 1, locate the vena cava and the pulmonary artery. So these are two big blood vessels. Have a look, check you know where they are. Number 2, show the route of the blood from the vena cava, highlighting which areas it flows through. Now I think it's quite a good opportunity now to get a colour pencil and actually colour in your heart. Now again, we're going to go red and blue. So I've got an example, so I've got my blue pencil here. This is coming in the vena cava we've talked about already. The blood goes into the right atria. It then travels by heartbeat into the right ventricle and then up out of the pulmonary artery. All blue, all deoxygenated. But remember, blood is always red, but it's less red when it's deoxygenated, so we tend to colour it in blue. So I've used a blue colour pencil. You can probably take a bit more time over that and make it a little bit neater. Then question 4, that should be 3, shouldn't it? Through which vessel does blood leave the heart? Now we've just coloured that in. Have a look which vessel blood leaves the heart through. Where is it going? And then through this stage, is the blood oxygenated or deoxygenated? Does it have oxygen in or not? And what is the job of the right atria? And finally, what's the job of the right ventricle? Okay. The vena cava, locate the vena cava, the vein cave, the big blood vessel coming in here, found it there. Pulmonary artery, here, blood vessel leaving the heart. The route of the blood, well, it's all nicely got arrows for you. Hopefully you've coloured yours in blue. It comes in and out the way like that. It flows through vena cava, right atria, right ventricle, pulmonary artery, up and out. Which vessel does the blood leave the heart? We've said pulmonary artery. Where's it going? It's going to the lungs. It wants to pick up extra oxygen. Now, we've said it's bluish. We've called it in blue. It's deoxygenated blood as it comes in and comes out here. It wants to go to the lungs. It wants to get oxygen. The job of the right atria is to collect blood to send it into the right ventricle. The job of the right ventricle is to squeeze blood into the lungs, pump blood to the lungs. All right, let's have a look at the other side now. Similar kind of picture, but this time we're going to use red. Okay, blood comes in from the lungs. It's oxygenated. We colour it in red just to signify that it's got lots of oxygen in it. It comes in through the pulmonary vein. Veins always go to the heart. This one comes from the lungs, pulmonary vein. First beat goes into the left ventricle. Now this blood is really rich in oxygen. Your body wants this blood. Every cell in your body wants oxygen-rich blood to deliver oxygen to it. So how does it get there? Through this massive blood vessel called the aorta. So the second beat sends blood to the rest of the body through the main artery called the aorta. Right, so now we're looking at labelling the pulmonary vein and aorta. So hopefully we've labelled this already. Pulmonary vein coming in from the lungs to the heart. Aorta leaving the left ventricle, big thick walls, massive squeeze of those, sends blood shooting out of the aorta all the way around your body. The job of the left atrium is to collect blood from the lungs to send down into the left ventricle. The job of the left ventricle is to send blood all the way around the body. That's why it's got such a thick wall. Okay, so number 4, why does the left ventricle have a much thicker wall of muscle? Because it has to pump blood a lot further. This little one here only has to pump blood to the lungs. And if you think in your chest, the heart and lungs are right next door to each other. This thick wall here has to pump blood all the way from the heart, all the way down to our toes, to our brain, all over the place. So it has a thick wall to get blood there really fast. All right, we've mentioned valves. Now you've labelled some valves. Valves are simply there to stop the backflow of blood, because if this was to squeeze really hard and instead of sending blood up here, it just sent it back the way, the heart wouldn't be a very good pump. And the same here as well. If this ventricle squeezes here and just sends blood shooting back into the atria, well, it's not doing its job properly. The valves close so blood shoots straight up the aorta and out to the body. So sometimes we refer to the circulatory system as a double circulatory system, because the first side, the right side, goes to the lungs, and the other one goes, the left side goes all the way around the body. Right, so I will send you this PowerPoint. There is another video you can watch to make it clearer, and also you can go through the PowerPoint at your own pace. I hope that helps, and can't wait to see you when you'll get back to school, and I hope you're keeping well through lockdown. Bye.